Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here for another video with your legal news. Um, Today, I'm going to talk about a news story. U.S. Appeals Court narrows Trump gag order in the federal 2020 election case. Now, what is a gag order? So, some of the times they're called protective orders. These are orders that restrict people from saying things in a case. Now, this mostly has to do with the witnesses in the case. Now it says I'm reading an article here from Reuters, and it says the court narrowed the limits on what Trump can say about witnesses in the case, barring only comments about their involvement in the investigation and their potential testimony at trial. Now, why would this be allowed, right? Because some might say, well, this is a restriction on free speech. Well, that might be true, but just remember, free speech is not legally absolute. There are restrictions on free speech, such as you can't commit defamation, you can't scream fire in a crowded theater. There's restrictions on obscenities. There's restrictions on commercial speech. There's restrictions on time, place, and manner, when and how you commit. Here's my daughter adding her contribution to the video. And so it's pretty established that we can have restrictions on free speech. It's just about, are they proper? Are they tailored? Now, why would you want to have a gag order such as this on President Trump? The reason is because there's another interest at play here, and you might say, well, these charges are, depending on which side of the spectrum, political spectrum you're on, you either think that these charges are great and he should be convicted, or you think that, Penny, will you? I'm making a video here. Or you think that, they're politically motivated charges that are made up and they should be dismissed right away, right? But probably this case with Jack Smith is going to go to trial because he's probably not going to take a plea deal, and so that's really the only other way that this case gets resolved. And then there'll probably be appeals, and then it might go to the Supreme Court, and so that's probably where this is going. But the reason is that, there can't be a restriction on the ability to call witnesses in the case, right? Because if certain people are allowed to say whatever they want about witnesses or whatever, that they can, be categorized as witness intimidation. And if we have witness intimidation, then, the case is not really being decided on its merits. It's being decided on who can scare the most people away from the courtroom. And that's not really due process, right? We have a due process clause, and, people, sometimes forget that, the government's entitled to due process as well. Not just the criminal defendant. And so, the cases and the legal system is really built around, is supposed to be built around having due process, where the case is decided on the facts and the law, not, who can prevent witnesses from being there. So that's what this is for. And you might disagree with it, and you might say it's not reasonable. There is no judge which is perfect. So I'm not necessarily saying I agree with the order, but I think probably it's been considered that Trump is a former president, and so I think he gets some consideration for that. That he is probably going to be the nominee, it looks like. And so I think he also has, so it's a balancing act, right? It's balancing free speech versus due process, right? Because a lot of the times when you look at these issues, there's actually competing sections of the Constitution that are at issue, right? And that's what's at issue here is you have the due process clause being balanced with free speech. So we'll have to see how this turns out. What happens if Trump violates this gag order? Is it possible? Do they have the authority to arrest him? I mean, technically, yes, but I don't see that happening just because, I think it would have to be, based on the type of cases, I think it would have to be pretty severe. I think there'd have to be documentation of significant witness intimidation, such as paying people not to show up, threats of violence or repudiation against witnesses. I think if the prosecutors walked into court and had that, it wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be good for Trump. So he has an interest in order to remain out of custody for as long as possible, and I think the best thing he can do is not talk about these cases at all. But as many of you know, Trump sometimes doesn't listen to his attorneys, and that's never good when you're not listening to your attorney. Well, thank you for listening to this video. Please give us a subscribe and a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time. Say bye-bye, Penny.